Week 2, fantasy starts and sits. Wow. Looking back at what happened in week 1, there were definitely some shocks. But we're not going to overreact to that, guys. We're still going to stay level-headed. We're going to make the right picks for this week. We're going to analyze what the matchups are and what that means for those fringe-type players who aren't an absolute lock in your lineup or an absolute sit. Okay, we're going to go over some guys and give you a little bit of insight why you should maybe be starting him, why you should maybe be sitting him. A lot of these guys are going to be a little bit situation depending on your lineup situation. All right, let's get it underway. To start, we got Kansas City versus the Chiefs in Arrowhead for Thursday Night Football. Guys, this is going to be a crazy matchup. This is going to be a shootout. We got the Stallions out there and Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. Now, let's start off with the Chargers. We got Keenan Allen. He's out. Okay, so that means Mike Williams. He's going to be getting a lot of receiving work this week, guys. I'm not worried about last week. He is starting on my team no matter what. I'm liking that situation. Austin Eckler given. All right, we're going to talk about Kansas City starts. Kelsey, given. Juju, if he's healthy, given. We liked what we saw last week. The fumbles were a concern, but I just don't think that's happening in week 2. Situational, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We are starting him depending who you got on your team. I like him starting over David Montgomery. I like him over Rashad Penny. Cordero Patterson. I like him over Ezekiel Elliott even. I know that's a stretch, but I could see it panning out good. Have your own better judgment with this, guys. I mean, if you're more leaning the safe way of Zeke, go ahead. I'll talk about him later in the video. Maybe I'll change your mind. I wouldn't say it is the best start over Zeke, but I could see why you're doing it. Chase Edmonds, Darrell Henderson, Miles Sanders, Travis Etienne, Jeff Wilson Jr. I'd be comfortable starting them over all those guys. The sits. Gerald Everett. Now, since Keenan Allen's out, I might consider putting him in if I don't have a pristine tight end. This might be a situational start here, guys. I'm not starting him over Darren Waller, Kittle. Well, if Kittle's not playing, I would start Everett. But, Kelsey, obviously not. Mark Andrews, obviously not. TJ Hawkinson, obviously not. Goddard probably wouldn't do that either. So, situational. And then with the Chargers, everyone else I'm sitting, I just have not seen enough out of everyone else to be confident starting them this week, guys. I think there are other players on your team that you could probably start over these other lower grade Chargers players. We want to be safe this week because week 1's always a little bit shifty. Then we're talking about Kansas City. Sitting MVS, sitting Sky Moore, sitting Mecole Hardman. I'm not confident enough in these guys yet to be having the volume necessary to produce in fantasy. These guys are all capable of having a big week. MVS and Hardman especially considering their veteran status and what we saw last week with their involvement in the offense, but just not worth it unless you absolutely have to. Don't think you're in that position. Let's talk Steelers, Patriots. TJ Watt is gone. Steelers' biggest guy on defense, their biggest threat. Do I think this will impact the game? Yes, but this Patriots offense is lacking. Mac Jones has got his injury he's dealing with. So I didn't really see much coming from the Patriots anyways, TJ Watt or not. Let's start off with Mitch Trubisky. I think he can supply at least 1 to 2 targets on this Steelers offense for now. Those two being Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth. I am not confident yet about Chase Claypool or George Pickens again. I mentioned that last week, guys. I got to see how this situation shapes out after a couple weeks. I'm playing the safe bet here, starting Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, and starting other guys over guys like Chase Claypool or George Pickens you might have in your lineup. Najee Harris, I think he's a start this week, guys. He looks to be good to go for week 1. He's still a very dominant running back. I think we can see more out of him this week, but I am a little bit concerned. Watch for this, guys. If he's not 100%, if he's not getting total volume, workload volume, I might be starting other guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire over him. Just depending what your situation is. If you don't have anything better, you might have to start Najee Harris and just hope for the best. Hope he gets in there for a score to get you some points this week. Let's talk about the Patriots. Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's a viable start this week. It's definitely situational. If you have better running backs, go for it. But I think they're going to have to lean on the running backs heavily this week, especially Ramondre Stevenson being a multifaceted back. I think Damian Harris, we saw last week that Patriots are leaning off him. So I would definitely not start Damian Harris with any consideration. And from there, the receivers over there in New England, it's not looking good. Jacoby Myers looks like the top target there, but he doesn't have enough separation from those other receivers to be like, yep, this guy is the main go-to target no matter what. He's going to have his production. I just don't see that happening. Last week he had a pretty weak performance with Mac Jones. I don't think any receiver in this offense can be started yet. We got to see some things happening. We got to have some stuff unfold in this offense maybe later in the season.
We got the Carolina Panthers traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Giants. First off, with Carolina, they lost to Cleveland Browns in week 1. We saw Baker throw a bomb to Robbie Anderson. That was about it. Christian McCaffrey kind of struggled. DJ Moore didn't get a lot of volume or any work really at all. Obviously, you're still starting Christian McCaffrey. You probably draft him in the top 3. We personally here at C3M weren't really looking to draft him that early, but you probably have him. You need to start him. He still got the volume. It wasn't very efficient, but he's going to get the volume. He is their best player. They should be using him more. Now, DJ Moore, I'm still flexing. I'm a little bit worried about him with Baker. A lot of people are saying this is the best quarterback he's had, but it didn't really show in week 1. Giants aren't, dominating defense or anything yet, so I would still flex DJ Moore because I still think the talent's there. And then if, he struggles again next week, then we can talk about it next week. Elsewhere in Carolina, Robbie Anderson, I know he's been a waiver wire kind of name after a big week 1, but it all kind of came with that 75-yard bomb. I'm still not trusting to start him. I'm not throwing him out there. There's just no way in hell I'm doing that. And Baker, I'm not starting either. He struggled. Didn't really show much that I was interested in at all. And now at the New York Giants, Saquon Barkley was absolutely a beast, having the most fantasy points as running back in week 1. He looked explosive as hell. You're obviously starting him. Expect the volume to be here for him every week now. Let's just hope he doesn't get hurt, knock on wood. It's the only player really on the New York Giants I'm starting or flexing this week. Kenny G did decent, not really though. Not playing him. Tony, for whatever reason, got barely any snaps, but when he did, he had a nice run, 20-yard run. But I'm still not flexing or starting until I see he's actually getting a lot of snaps. Sterling Shepard actually looked decent, but I still feel like you probably have better options than him to flex or start this week. But in a really deep league, I could get it if there's like 3 flex league or something like that. And then Daniel Dimes, I'm not starting either. There's just no way. Like I said, Baker and Danny, I get maybe super flex, but 1 quarterback leagues, there's just no way I'm starting them. So it should be an interesting game between 2 of the most big fantasy running backs in Saquon and Christian McCaffrey.
Talk about Jets-Browns. What a weird game. I mean, just 2 non-playoff teams. I'd put my money on that today if you could, but the line probably isn't that great anyways. But we're going to talk about the Jets. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. These 2 are very situational in that order. Elijah Moore before Corey Davis. They didn't really do anything crazy last week, and I think that's a result of the low-powered offense with a lot of similar powered mouths to feed. No one on the offense is like very commanding of the ball yet. I think Breece Hall down the line might be that way. I think, Garrett Wilson maybe later in the season might be that way. But week 2, after what I saw, these guys are very situational. If you very well need to start these guys, I can see you doing it. For the Browns, I'm starting Chubb and probably Hunt. Hunt might be a little bit more situational considering your running back situation, but I could see him being a good flex throw-in. Last week we saw Chubb and Hunt being leaned on very much so in this offense without a reliable quarterback. I could see that being the same way week 2. Kareem Hunt, man, this guy's looking to get 4 to 5 receptions probably. They're probably gonna have to dump it off to him in the passing game, knowing their quarterback situation. Sits. We kind of talked about Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. They're borderline. You could easily sit them if you need to, like if the situation is plausible. Garrett Wilson, I'm sitting him. Breece Hall and Michael Carter all sits. Garrett Wilson, have not seen enough yet. Rookie, need to see more. Breece Hall definitely had some more involvement in the offense, but not what we like to see yet. Splitting it with Michael Carter, and that's why I'm not putting Carter in either, because the Jets could easily just start Breece Hall and go crazy with him, and then Carter's in the dust. And then we're talking Browns, Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper. I'm sitting on this week. Amari Cooper had a dud of a week. Unless you absolutely have to, guys, I'm not starting Amari Cooper. I would start Amari Cooper over Peoples-Jones, but they're off my list. Just a little bit of talk here about the game. I mean, this game, someone's going to have a big game, but it's just too hard to predict who's going to have it with these poor offenses. Defensive situations, it's kind of like, it's not terrible matchups. But I just think both offenses are going to have troubles moving down the field, ball down the field, leaving another offense maybe in a better position than the other, depending on the drives, yardage-wise. 3 and outs, punting the ball down to the 40 or 30, setting that other team up for a little bit better of scoring position, and having that kind of back and forth thing the whole game. Colts-Jaguars. Let's talk Colts. Last week, it did not look good for them against the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, a very poor offense and defense. The Colts seemed to struggle on both ends of the ball, resulted in a tie game. Anyways, this week I'm starting JT and Michael Pittman. Those are the only guys I can rely on this week for fantasy. I know they're playing against the Jaguars, but the Jaguars, they held their own against the Commanders. So this Jaguars team isn't good, but I think they can hold their own against the Colts. I'm not starting guys like Paris Campbell. I'm not starting guys like Alec Pierce. We need to see more out of those guys before we start them. Alec Pierce, I could see later in the season once he starts catching those touchdown passes, him being a better option, but not this week, not week 2. For the Jaguars, this one's interesting, guys. As far as the running back situation is concerned, I am sitting James Robinson, no questions asked. Last week, 12 of his 19 and 19.6 points were from touchdowns. I'm not liking that whatsoever. That could easily be Etienne's work this week. Etienne, I think he's a situational start. I like him a lot. Mind you guys, this was his first NFL start in a regular season game, and I think he had a respectable game. I think they're going to need to rely on him more in this game. Etienne had some very efficient carries. I think he had like 11 yards per carry, only on 4 touches though. But we're looking to see more volume from Etienne this week, and I think he's a situational start over guys like Ezekiel Elliott or David Montgomery, where they're more veteran-like players who have been on a decline. And, situations this week, the defenses those 2 guys are going against, I just don't know if I'm starting those guys over a guy like Etienne who's going against the Colts and who is going to be needed in this Jaguars offense. Receiver-wise, we are starting Christian Kirk and no one else. Evan Ingram, we got to see a couple more weeks out of him yet. Marvin Jones, just not going to start him. Anyone else you're considering in that game is a no-go for me.
Dolphins taking on the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Both teams got off to a great start winning their first games. With the Dolphins here, I'm obviously starting Tyreek Hill. He had a great game. Showed he got a lot of targets. The volume's still going to be there. He's not probably going to have maybe as big of games as he used in Kansas City. We'll see. That could change. But I'm still starting him. And then obviously Jalen Waddle, I'm probably still going to be flexing. I doubt you really have a better option than him. I mean, he got that long touchdown. Besides that touchdown, he didn't get, the stats I really was looking for with him. But I think there's chances for him to break free always with his speed, and having Tua there to take some pressure off of him. So obviously, I'm going to flex him too. Chase Edmonds, he got some work, but I think I'm going to sit him this week. I think you should have some better options at the running back position. He didn't look terrible. His yards per carry weren't great, but he got the touches and volume that we were maybe expecting. But I would look elsewhere still in this week against Baltimore. Now with the Ravens, you're obviously starting Mark Andrews still. I know he had a tougher week for him, but what he put up last week for fantasy, that's usually some of the tight ends that people are starting as their best game of the season. So you're obviously rolling with Mark Andrews again next week. Lamar Jackson, you're starting too. Had a great game. He didn't get a lot of passing yards, but he got the touchdowns, and hopefully he can get that rushing game up a little bit more and get some more passing yards here in this game. Rashad Bateman's a low flex. If you do have a better option, I would look for it. If he didn't catch that one long touchdown pass from Lamar, we would be looking at a really dud of a game. So I'm interested to see and hope that he gets more targets, but I wouldn't mind flexing him at all, especially if you have 2 flexes like you should in your leagues. But if you have a better option, do it. If not, I understand playing him. He's still talented, but I hope to see more volume than just a big touchdown. Devin Duvernay, the 2-touchdown game. No Wayne Helm starting him. I think that was a fluke game. Maybe he ends up being the number 1 receiver over Bateman. I doubt it, but we'll see. And then Tua, I'm probably not playing either unless you really are really desperate. Maybe he's your backup because Dak got hurt. That's probably the only case I'd be really starting him in that game. So we'll see how that game goes.
Buccaneers at Saints. This one's interesting, guys. Buccaneers definitely had a better defense than the Saints week 1. Much better. But I think we still got some starts on both sides. Mike Evans, Fournette. And those are my go-to starts for the Buccaneers. I'm not considering anyone else. I will talk about that in a second. For the Saints, I'm starting MT. I think he showed last week that he still's got it. Not too concerned about him getting injured this week, although it very well could happen. That's probably the only thing standing in my way. I think he is a top 2 target on that offense, especially considering the next guy, Kamara. He might not be a full go next week. Last week, he didn't produce because he wasn't getting the full volume of touches because of his little injuries. He could be full go for next week, but I'm monitoring that, guys. If I have a guy like CEH and Kamara is going to be a game time decision, I might just shove in CEH knowing that he's going to be healthy in a shootout. Okay? Kamara, Saints, they might be struggling to move the ball down the field against this Buccaneers defense. And that would not be good for Kamara, who isn't healthy enough to be on the field enough to make an impact and get fantasy points. If they're playing a very bad team, I could totally see Kamara, getting some very nice carries, very long receptions, getting into the end zone, that Saints offense. But, this might be a little bit of a struggle of a game for the Saints. So I'm not really that confident in Kamara if he's not 100%. Jarvis Landry, he's situational. We saw this guy, as a veteran, show out for the Saints. He's always had that capability in his bag, but he's been on offenses where he's been second, third option, and he's had a hard time shining. But we saw last week that he was a favorite for Jameis Winston, getting 7 receptions. I'm liking that if you need to start him. He might even be a good start over some other players here, like Elijah Moore, like I said. Juju, if Juju's not healthy, as just to refer the previous things I've talked about. The sits. I'm sitting Godwin this week, guys. He just didn't have a great week last week. I think he's still battling with injury. If he does come back, I'm concerned he's not 100% and he's not going to be getting the volume he needs to supply your team. Julio, I'm sitting. Russell Gage, I'm sitting. I just don't know which one's going to take over if they do even. For the Saints, I'm sitting Olave and Taysom Hill. Not even touching Taysom Hill, guys. I think last week was a very good week for him, but off of very, very, very little touches. That's not going to be happening every week. Olave, right now I think he's a third option in this offense, passing game, and he's a rookie. So maybe somewhere down the line when one of these vets step down or step out of the way, but I need to see more out of Olave to start him. Lions, Commanders. This one will be interesting. I think the Lions will win the game. We saw last week that they held their own against this more high-powered Eagles offense. Their offense, the Lions offense, stormed back. They showed that they could put up points against the Eagles defense and take care of business. So definitely scoring opportunities for these Lions players. Guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I'm starting. TJ Hawkinson, I'm starting. DeAndre Swift, I am starting. Jamal Williams, I am not starting. This guy had 2 touchdowns last week. Beyond that, he only had like 2 to 3 points. If he didn't score those touchdowns, guys, I'm not relying on that. I don't think he's going to be getting that many red zone touches every week. I think it's just not practical to be starting this guy in your lineups. So, I'm sure you guys have better players to start over Jamal Williams. I'm not starting anyone else on this Lions team. DJ Chark, no. I just can't rely on those guys outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're talking Commanders. This is interesting, guys. Again, I'd probably start Antonio Gibson. He had a great week last week. Ron Rivera said he was going to get the workload. He got the workload. I am projecting a similar usage this week. As far as receivers, I'm starting Terry McLaurin. Other 2, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. I don't think they can be reasonably started in your lineups this week. I want to see one more good week of production on Curtis Samuel to do so. And Jahan Dotson, I want to see another week. But I will say going forward down the line, I think Terry is still going to be the number 1 option, and I think it will be a struggle for all those 3 guys to produce significant fantasy points down the road with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Stay in touch with that, guys. Stay on top of that situation. We'll definitely be talking about that situation over the year.
The Seattle Seahawks traveling to Frisco to take on the San Francisco 49ers here. First off with the Seahawks, obviously – it's not really what we like to see for fantasy. Geno Smith looked great, but nobody else really did. We know DK got, the 7 catches, but there was no yardage. So I'm flexing DK. Obviously, you're still got to put him in there because of his talent. I just think his ceiling is way lower now. I love his talent, like I keep saying, but the volume is not going to be there for big plays. I don't think with Geno Smith. It's just not going to be an explosive offense. So flex DK and Tyler Lockett, I'm sitting. Barely got any work. There's just not going to be a lot of passing volume to go around to really support two guys like Russ was able to do with here. Tyler Lockett, I'm not starting at all. There's just no way. Rashad Penny, I'm honestly probably going to be sitting him because Kenneth Walker, the rookie running back they took in the second round, is looking to be healthy this week, so we could have a committee share there, or maybe they're going to ride the hot hand. I don't want to trust that. Hopefully you have a better running back option than that. So, yeah, I'm not looking to start Penny at all this week, especially with Ken coming back, and he didn't. And even when Ken was out, Penny didn't do much, which I kind of expected to happen, to be honest with you. And then Geno Smith, obviously I'm not starting him. There's way, way, way better options at quarterback here in fantasy football than Geno Smith. He looked good, but not like a guy I'm starting. Just no way.
So for the folks you said had written you off maybe, what do you say to them?
Yeah, they wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. That's the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go.
Now it's 49ers. You're starting Deebo Samuel. That touchdown kind of saved his day, but it was such a crappy, sloppy game with that weather in Chicago and that terrible field in Soldier Field. Deebo's going to get a lot more work at running back now with, Elijah Mitchell out for 2 months. So that's going to help our fantasy situation with him, guys. He's going to get the volume. I'm excited. I think he could have a really big week against the Seahawks. Seahawks defense, up front looked a lot better than I thought it would, but, it's not scaring me to not start Deebo. He's one of the best players to have in fantasy football. Jeff Wilson, who's now the starting running back for San Francisco, I'm flexing him or low RB2 for you if you don't have a better option to start. I know they have Tyrion Davis-Price and Mason since Elijah Mitchell's down, but Jeff Wilson has shown he can get the volume, and we don't know for sure. It's tough to always read Kyle Shanahan in these situations with running backs, but I still think Jeff Wilson will be the starter at least this week. And they're a run-heavy team, and he's efficient with that. So, take that into consideration. But if you don't have a better option at your second RB spot, start him. Like in one of my leagues, I kind of went receiver heavy, and my starting running back is A.J. Dillon, and then I have a bunch of, flyer guys. And I picked up Jeff Wilson. I'm starting him with A.J. Dillon this week. So it depends on your situation. If you have a question on your certain situation, please leave a comment. We're here to help you. With that as well, Ayuk, it's a low flex. He had that nice play with Trey Lance, which I really did like. But other than that, it's just tough. If you really don't have a better option, put him out there, but really temper your expectations. If you just want a solid, possibly 8 to 10 points, put him in there. But we don't really know how it's going to look. Hopefully Lance is able to, throw the ball a little bit more, and maybe Ayuk can get a touchdown there. So probably flex Ayuk. And then Trey Lance. Unless it's super flex, I don't think I'm going to start him until I can see he's going to put up good numbers. He obviously had the rushing ability, and I'm really high on Lance for the season still. But if he is your backup, hopefully, even if he is your starter, maybe look elsewhere. But, he's still like a low-end quarterback to have right now. Super flex, obviously, you're still rolling him out there. But, a division rival game will be interesting to see what happens in that one, guys. So keep aware of George Kittle as well. If he's playing, you're starting him. If he's not, be ready to have a backup in place. And I didn't talk about the Seahawks tight ends because I'm not starting any of them. So there we go for that rival game.
Falcons Rams. Let's talk about the Rams week 1. Rams, they got a really good defense, guys. Played against the Bills. I think, the Bills, what can I say? They got such a high-powered offense. The Rams, they did what they had. The defense did what they had to do. They forced turnovers. Matthew Stafford in the offense gave the ball right back to the Bills, giving them very good scoring position in certain scenarios. The Rams defense, they held their own. But against such a high-powered offense in the Bills and Josh Allen, there's only so much you can do. And this week against the Falcons, I think they're going to stuff the Falcons every chance they get. So I'm having a hard time with some of these offensive players for Atlanta. They just don't have the same firepower that the Bills have, obviously. So starting with the Falcons, the only person I'm considering starting is Pitts. No one else. I think if you have Pitts, it's probably because you probably don't have any other better tight ends. So I'm talking Pitts there, guys. Only guy I'm starting. I don't think anyone else can have, reliable volume and reliable fantasy production this week for the Falcons. For the Rams, I'm starting Cooper Kupp. Hands down, no questions asked. I'm starting A-Rob too. Most of you guys are probably going to have to start A-Rob considering your situations. And I personally think, and I know this is a lesser opponent than the Bills, but Matthew Stafford's got to get it figured out. He cannot be targeting Cooper Kupp every time, and expect the team to win. He's got to spread the ball a little bit. Cooper Kupp's still going to get his. I'm not saying Cooper Kupp, isn't a great player, but he's going to have to give A-Rob more targets if he wants a genuine chance of making it far in the playoffs this year and winning the Super Bowl again. So he's got to get on the A-Rob train. So I'm starting A-Rob this week. They got to get it figured out. I think they're going to be targeting A-Rob at least 7 times this week. As far as the sits, I'm sitting Cordero Patterson, I'm sitting Drake London, and everyone else. I just don't think that these guys have what it takes against such a defense to get it done. I mean, they might have a game, but I'm not gambling on that. I'm going with the guy who is definitely more certain. So, with that being said, I will kind of give you a little bit of analysis on this. Cordero Patterson, he has some great runs. He breaks off. He has some nice gains. I just don't think that's happening against the Rams. And I'm pretty sure you guys have some other guys you can start over Cordero. Drake London, similar story. I don't think he's going to have enough volume or enough efficient touches to put up enough fantasy points to be in your starting lineups. I think you guys got some other guys who are safer bets than that instead of going with this Falcons team against the Rams. For the Rams, I am sitting Henderson and Akers. Henderson, I'd consider starting him more than Akers, but week 1 for me wasn't telling enough. I'm not entirely positive that they're not going to be more of a split backfield this next week. They might be easing Akers back into action a little bit. Who knows? And I'm just not convinced that Henderson is such a dominant back that I can have him in there no matter what. I think there's other guys you have on your teams that you can easily start over him no matter what. We got Cardinals Raiders. Both teams struggled last week, but the Raiders definitely had more of a game to show for than the Cardinals did. Cardinals playing against a much worse defense in the Kansas City Chiefs than the Raiders playing against the Chargers. So now this game, both of them going against easier defenses. Derek Carr hopefully is more settled into this new offense with Devontae Adams. I think he's going to have a more fluid game this game, more just an overall better game, higher production from Derek Carr, better for the overall Raiders offense. For the Cardinals, I think Kyler Murray might get it a little bit more figured out this week. I don't know if they're going to be playing from as far behind right out the gates. I'm looking to see a little bit more production out of both teams this week. Starting with the Raiders, I am starting Devontae Adams, no question. Shouldn't even have to talk about it. Darren Waller, you're starting him. Josh Jacobs, I say is another start this week. Last week, playing from behind against the Chargers, such a high-powered offense in the Chargers. They were not really giving Josh Jacobs the work I think he can be getting. I'm not really too concerned about his situation there with the Raiders. I think this week he gets more volume against this Cardinals team, especially if they get out ahead. Josh Jacobs is still a great back in this league. Hunter Renfrow, we're not starting him, guys. We saw last week being the third passing option in this offense. It really hindered his ability to get points. Last year, he was a product of being the number 1 target for wide receiver, especially when Darren Waller was hurt a third of the season. So look out for that. Let's talk about Cardinals. The only respectable starts I can say for you guys are Marquise Brown and James Conner. James Conner, not a good back, but he's getting that volume. So for some reason, 2.6 yards per carry last week, just atrocious. But he was getting a lot of dump-off passes for PPR, and they're still using him in the red zone and getting him touchdowns. He had that work last week. I can see that happening again this week if they get down there. The firepower just isn't there yet for the Cardinals to make James Conner not relevant. Marquise Brown will still get that production, but beyond that, I'm not taking anyone else on this team. Zach Ertz, I'm sitting, and Rondale Moore, I'm sitting as well. Zach Ertz, we got to see a little bit more production out of him to be confident in starting that guy.
The Houston Texans traveling a mile high to take on the Denver Broncos. Let's start with the Houston Texans. They tied their first game with the Colts. I think they were shocked. They were leading a lot of that game, and that kind of told me a lot of things. Brandon Cooks, I'm flexing for sure if you haven't put him in your lineup. He's going to be a target hog. His ceiling's not as high. He's probably not going to be a touchdown guy, but he's going to get the volume, guys. He got 13 targets last week. Him and Davis Mills have a connection, and I'm going to ride that out, especially if you have him as a great flex option. Besides that, in Houston, we got Dameon Pierce, who was really disappointing, didn't get a lot of work. I'm sitting him, guys. I need to see him actually get the volume before I'm putting him out there in my lineups. Hopefully, I have better options at running back and just didn't bank on him to be, that starter full on for sure. They should be putting him out there instead of Rex Burkhead. Lovie Smith did say they want to give him more touches, but besides the point, just don't put him out there right now. Let's see some actual points before we want to put him back out there. Davis Mills, one quarterback league. I'm just not starting him. He looks pretty solid always, but there's just better quarterback options. If you're in a 10, 12-man league and you're only starting one quarterback. And besides that, there's no one else really in Houston I'm interested in. I know O.J. Howard had that 2-touchdown game. Still not starting him. Just no way. I'm sorry. There's better options at tight end. Nico Collins didn't really do much. So it's really it for the Houston Texans offense. Now the Denver Broncos. Starting Javonte Williams. Wasn't very efficient on the ground. Fumbled once, but Russ was dumping the ball off to him. I've never really seen Russ dump it to his running backs that much. So you're starting Javonte. You took him to be a starter, and even in a game where he didn't get a touchdown and fumbled, he still got a very, very good week because of those 11 catches he got. Cortland Sutton, you're starting. He got 7 targets, 4 catches for 70 yards. Russ is still going to be looking for him, so you're definitely still putting him out there as a starter flex. And then Russ, I'm starting as well. Unless you have like a top 5 option that's better than him, like Mahomes, Herbert, Josh Allen. I'm rolling with Russ. He looked good. He didn't get a lot of touchdowns, but the yards was there and the efficiency was there. And then Jerry Jeudy, I will flex. I wasn't that high on him because I thought it was going to be a Sutton show, but Russ is showing again. Like we kind of thought, he can support 2 guys. Jeudy had that really long touchdown, so he might be more of a big play guy than we thought. That would be Cortland Sutton. So Jerry Jeudy, you're obviously flexing there with that. Melvin Gordon, didn't look bad on the ground, but his, upside is so low. He also fumbled. I'm sitting Melvin Gordon. Hopefully you have a better option as well with that. And then, I'm not starting Albert O at the tight end position for Denver either because they were using a lot of different tight ends and there's just not consistency for wanting me to put them out there in my lineups. I think it should be an interesting game. You would think Denver should be able to win this one, but Denver did lose to Seattle last week. So there we go.
Bengals Cowboys. Concern for the Cowboys this week. I am starting on the Bengals. Jamar Chase, no questions. Mixon, no questions. T, if he's back from the concussion, no questions asked. Cowboys, I'm starting CeeDee Lamb. I'm starting Dalton Schultz. I think CeeDee, being the talent he is, will still get his with this backup quarterback. I think a reasonable range for him this week is 12 to 17. Wouldn't be surprised if he fell a little bit outside of that in either direction, but I think he's still a solid pick here, guys. Dalton Schultz, similar deal. I think Schultz is going to get his targets, especially with this less powerful quarterback. I'm sitting Tyler Boyd if T. Higgins is healthy. If T is out, man, I'm highly considering starting Tyler Boyd. I think he's still a respectable receiver. I think he still gets his work if he's second option. So if you got both T and Boyd, fantastic for you, and T is hurt, start Tyler Boyd. I think he'll be a nice fill-in for you there. With the Cowboys, I'm sitting Zeke, I'm sitting Pollard, I'm sitting everyone else. This Bengals defense is respectable, but their offense is great, especially when Joe Burrow is firing on all cylinders, and I think Joe Burrow is going to have a bounce-back week. Last week was embarrassing. I don't think it's happening again this week. I think this offense is going to dominate the Cowboys. They're going to march down the field, and right out the gates, the Cowboys are going to be playing from behind, and Zeke and Pollard are not going to be getting many touches just like last week. That is very concerning for me, guys. I think there are plenty of guys you can start over Zeke on your teams if you drafted correctly. So I'm worried about Zeke and Pollard from that aspect.
And now for my favorite game this week, the Bears versus the Packers. Bear down, baby. I'm sick of all these Packer fans. They're all my friends, I know. Growing up in Wisconsin, I'm used to it. And they're going to be very surprised with this take. Starting with the start sit. Sit David Montgomery. Sad reality here. It is not because of Khalil Herbert. I get he got a lot of red zone work. That's not the reason we're sitting David Montgomery today. Heck no. He is still the best back there, and he's going to take back over eventually. With that said, it is because of one man I am terrified of. I've been on him for years, was pissed the Packers took him. And that's big bad Rashawn Gary, a guy who's got actual potential to be Defensive Player of the Year on one of the best defenses in the NFL for the Green Bay Packers. So why? Why are we sitting Dave Montgomery? I don't see a lot of opportunity for him to score a lot. I don't see this Bears offense being that elusive. At the same time, the Packers kind of shut down Dalvin a little bit. He had a decent game on a way more high-powered offense. Not going to be seeing that in Chicago. Same time, we are starting A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Easy money. Both of them should be starting running back spots. Aaron Jones going to get receptions. A.J. Dillon's running up the middle. The Bears defense is only okay. Same time, Allen Lazard's back. We're starting him. Aaron Rodgers trusts him right now. He's going to be getting the ball. He's going to be force-fed if he is playing. And at the same time, his rush blocking is so great, it helps running backs. I would sit Christian Watson for now. He has boom potential. We saw that drop pass on the first play. Had he caught that, he might already be that wide receiver one for Green Bay. He's going to get his chances.
First game of the Monday night doubleheader, we got the Tennessee Titans traveling to Buffalo to take on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. First off, with the Titans, you're starting King Henry. I know his efficiency wasn't really there, but his volume was there. He actually ran a lot of routes. I know Hilliard got those good PPR points, but Derrick Henry, you're rolling out there. You took him probably first round. You got to start him, and I think he could have a big game against Buffalo. Besides that, in Tennessee, there's really nobody I'm really interested in starting. I'm big on Treylon Burks as a rookie, and he looked actually decent, but I just think I can't put him out there yet. I still think there's better options to flex and start than him at the receiver position and in your flex spots. Robert Woods did not look good at all. Leave him on your bench. Sorry if you even listened to me maybe put him in your flex last week because I was wrong. Leave him on your bench. Besides that, Dontrell Hilliard, I know people are kind of interested in now in PPR. People might have picked him up on the waivers. Just leave him on your bench, guys. Let's see actually some fruition if he's actually going to be a consistent contributor, because I think that might have just been a little just solid, a good game that just happens every once in a while. Now with Buffalo, you're obviously starting Stephon Diggs, had a fantastic game against the Rams. Josh Allen, an MVP favorite. You're starting him as well if you have him, no doubt about it. Gabe Davis, Adam loves him. We like him here too, me and Christian. You flexing him at least. He had that touchdown. Didn't get a lot of volume, a lot of targets that we wanted to see, but you want players in good offenses, and he showed he can contribute, and he played on damn every near snap, so that makes me feel good. Devin Singletary, I'm not rolling out there. Hopefully I have better options at running backs. He didn't look too bad, but they did use all three running backs. I know James Cook fumbled, but they did use all three in some way, and I'm just not interested in starting any of those guys. Should be a good game on Monday night, guys. Yeah, I like that game. It should be fun to watch.
Vikings Eagles. Two kind of poor defenses and two great offenses. I'm projecting this thing to be high scoring. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We saw last week that the Vikings offense was looking amazing against the Packers defense. Was that the Packers defense not showing up, or was that the Vikings offense doing amazing? I think second half, the Packers kind of got a little bit more figured out against this Vikings offense, but we still saw just how dominant the Vikings are with JJ. I don't think the Eagles have more firepower than the Packers on defense, so look for more production out of the Vikings offense. Eagles, wow, they look great. They have a lot of offensive threats. They were marching the ball down the field against the Lions. The Lions started to come back against the Eagles. Why? Because the Eagles' defense isn't the greatest. So both these teams looking good for week one, fantasy-wise. Let's start off with the Vikings. JJ, lock, no questions asked. Dalvin Cook, lock, no questions asked. Now, Adam Thielen, might be a little bit situational for you guys, but I'm starting Thielen because I'm liking this matchup, and I think Thielen will get his this week. I think Kirk Cousins still likes Thielen a lot, especially in the white red zone. We didn't see that work last week, but we've seen it the last couple of years. Thielen gets his work in the red zone. I'm liking Thielen on your teams this week, guys. As for the Eagles, I am starting A.J. Brown, no questions. We just saw that last week. Am I projecting him to have such a dominant week this week? I'm not so sure. I think they're going to spread the ball a little bit more this week between A.J. Brown, Goddard, and Smith. I am considering starting all three of those guys. Devonta Smith being a little bit more situational just because of such a poor performance last week. But I think, if the Eagles want to win this game, they're going to have to learn to spread the ball. Jalen Hurts is going to find his amazing second-year receiver who had a great year last year more in this game. And Smith is the type of guy who can have some big plays too. He's got the talent. I'm not done with Smith yet. Sits, Vikings, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith, Alexander Madison, no questions asked, nothing to tell about that. They got their options in JJ, Thielen, and Cook. Eagles, I'm sitting Miles Sanders, I'm sitting Gainwell. Vikings, they still got a pretty nice front for the run game. They got their man Daniil Hunter, they got their guy from the Packers, Zadarius Smith, who are going to put in some work against this Eagles run game. Jalen Hurts, obviously, I think he'll get outside, but I think the Eagles might have to rely more on the passing game and, some RPOs with Jalen Hurts and maybe some more dump-offs to the running backs. And I think Gainwell is more that running back to get that kind of a receiving load out of the backfield. But these two running backs, I'm just not convinced with. Not convinced. Miles Sanders last week, he had like 10 rushes. He had great yardage, but I'm not happy about my running back not getting a lot of touches because you need the volume to get the constant production. And I just don't know if he's going to be getting that much volume this week or having such efficient carries. So I'm very concerned about that, guys. I think there are some other guys you can start against this guy, Miles Sanders. There you have it, guys. Those are our start and sits for week 2. Drop a comment if you need more clarification on certain guys or if you have a situational thing with your lineup and you need to know, maybe some tips on who you should be starting, who you should be sitting. We can do that for you guys. Definitely check in on our Instagram and TikTok. We got the link in the bio, in the description below, in the link tree. Those videos are great for quick informational videos for you guys to stay in touch with fantasy football. Definitely a good way to get in contact with us regarding those starts, sits, and also buy, sells. We've been posting videos on there. Personally, those are my favorite videos, guys. They're really quick, really accessible, very easy to learn, quick things, and stay, up to date on these fantasy topics and what's going on in the league for your fantasy teams. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Cover 3 Media, we got you covered as always. We're winning championships this year. We put our money where our mouth is. We would not tell you to start a guy who we would not be comfortable starting ourselves. Stick with it, guys. Cover 3 Media.